Ashley Edwards, Extension Beef Cattle Specialist for the LSU Ag Center. Today I want to visit with you a little bit about different selection criteria and management considerations for commercial replacement females. The one thing that I want to start with and emphasize is that it is our goal to develop great reproductive mature cows. Now we're talking heifers, but we have to think long-term goals and think about cows that will have great longevity and a very productive lifetime within your herd. So the first thing to think about when we talk replacement females is going to be age. Now, I'm sure you've heard that we want to calve these females at 2 years of age. And if we're talking primarily Bos Taurus influence, so even some of our American breeds that have a little bit of less Brahman in them, but definitely our Bos Taurus breeds, we want them to calve at 2. Now, Bos Indicus, your purebred Brahman, maybe 75% ear, give or take, that's kind of a gray area. They're going to hit puberty a lot later. We're not able to calve them quite at 2, okay? So throughout the duration of this, realize that I'm talking, yes, some of our American breeds that might be 3/8 Brahman. Now, if I want her to calve at 2, then I need her to be bred by 14, 15 months, ideally. Puberty itself naturally is going to depend on age, and genetics is going to play into that as well. Across breeds, as we've been discussing, Bos Taurus versus Bos Indicus, but also within a breed as well. So you can look at your females and their history and kind of when they've been bred and what has worked for your operation, and to see if they've been hitting puberty early enough or not. Now, I know I have some producers out there that I visit with quite frequently that they want to calve at 3 years of age no matter what. So why do I say 2? Numerous studies have shown that if we can calve them at 2, they will produce 1.5 calves more per lifetime than those that calve at 3. Again, it's your operation. If you are profitable calving at 3, that works better for you from a management standpoint, then do that, okay? They will definitely hit puberty by that age and you'll be able to do that well. But know that you can develop them and they can be pubertal so that you can calve them successfully at 2, and they will become productive cows. That is very possible to do. So age plays a role naturally before those hormones start really functioning and cycling well within the body. Along with that was the genetics that we mentioned. The other thing is going to be their overall size and weight. Now, I have the size and weight debate quite frequently when I give this talk, and what I like to emphasize is that you can have 2 heifers that are different frame sizes but the same weight. So we can't always focus specifically on the weight itself. We have to look at overall size. Now, size being frame size, like I mentioned a while ago, and maintaining uniformity in that throughout your herd. But the other thing that you can look at is going to be pelvic area. Pelvic area, you use a pelvimeter, you palpate rectally, you measure the height and the width of the pelvis, multiply those together, and then you utilize a ratio based off of her size and her age, and that will tell you the birth weight that she can handle on her first calf. Okay, we do a heifer development program through the LSU Ag Center, and I can tell you that I've taken pelvic area on all of those heifers. We've taken close to 300 heifers so far over the years in that, and I've had some very large frame heifers with a very small pelvic area. And so a lot of times that's what we run into when we have some of those horror stories that we get of calving first time heifers. So realize that it is possible. A pelvic area is another thing that you can look at to assess her overall size. Now, some general rules of thumb that we utilize. We say that we want her at 60 to 65% of her mature size when we first breed her, and then 80 to 85% of her mature size at calving. Now, realize she is still growing, right, when she calves that first time. And so in saying that, when we look at size, we look at weight, we also look at body condition. And I really want her to be at a body condition score of 6 when she calves the first time. So we really focus on that condition on those heifers because they will drop at least 1 body condition score prior, or when they do calve, excuse me. So keep in mind, they're calving, they're lactating for the first time, and they're still growing. We're asking a lot of her. We don't have time in this particular talk to really dig into proper nutrition, but realize we have a couple of nutritionists with the LSU Ag Center that can help you with that. Your local extension agents can help you out as well if you have questions about a proper nutrition protocol for your replacement females. So we've talked age, we've talked size. Again, the biggest thing with size is maintaining uniformity throughout your herd that will assist you in management, particularly on the nutritional aspect. We've talked about weight. Now, again, weight and size together, 60 to 65% of her mature weight and size at breeding, 80 to 85% at calving, and maintaining a body condition score of 6, ideally throughout. But I realize, I don't know if you can see the heifers behind me anymore, It's the fall. They're kind of in that awkward stage right now. We're not quite to the breeding season yet, so they're a little bit thinner right now. We'll turn out on ryegrass in January, and they'll really put on gain then, and they will hit that body condition score of 6 by the time we breed them in March or April. So looking at all of that, we've tied genetics in. The other thing that I want to mention with genetics is just because we're talking commercial females here, doesn't mean that we don't have performance records that we can reflect back on. So we might not have EPDs specifically, but you do have performance records of her dam, her great dam, and so on and so forth. And you can go back and look at multiple generations to kind of get an idea of what her genetics are and how she will perform when you start looking at your selection criteria. So moving a little bit more into selection criteria, we mentioned the frame size overall. Temperament is another one that I really look at. We know that more temperamental cattle perform at a lower rate than more docile cattle. And so assessing the temperament, you can apply an actual score to that. There's multiple ways that you can do that. But honestly, just looking at them and saying she's a little bit too crazy or she's a little bit too flighty for me, she needs to go, works well too. Your performance records, I mentioned that as well. Go back and look at multiple generations and kind of tell. And then structural conformation. So Mr. Tyler Barlow has a video that complements this one where he looks at structural conformation. We'll have that linked in this video description as well, so you can go back and look at that if you haven't seen it yet. The last thing I want to mention is that you do need to go ahead and keep more replacement females than what you actually intend to utilize. So realize that not all of them will get pregnant, and realize that not all of them will perform the way that you want them to once they start growing past weaning. So if we start looking at the average annual replacement female rate, that's somewhere in 15 to 20% range throughout the U.S. Depending on how you're going to breed them, you can say anywhere from a 60 to an 80% pregnancy rate on those females. I err on the side of caution and want to keep more females if at all possible. So I'll just say a 60% pregnancy rate is what we can anticipate. And then of those that get pregnant, we can estimate maybe 70 to 75% actually develop into a female that meet my criteria for me to want to keep. So at the end of the day, if I need 15 replacement females that are pregnant in my herd for the following year, I'm going to end up keeping 35 to 40, I think it pencils out to be 36 specifically, that I'm going to keep and hold on to and start to develop and try to get bred. Now I may cull some of those along the way, for various reasons, but again, you have to keep more to start with than what you actually need at the end of the day. So remember that your goal overall is to produce a good productive cow, not just a good productive heifer. Ideally, if we can calve at 2 years of age, that will give her more calves through her lifetime, which brings you more profit through her lifetime. If that doesn't work for your operation, it doesn't work for your operation. But you can look at that and we can discuss, could that potentially benefit you? Now, when we say size, again, we are talking both frame size and weight. Don't get bogged down on just her being the proper weight. And if you've had issues with calving heifers in the past, another thing that you can look at is going to be pelvic area, and you can take those measurements. Now, the final question is, how do I know that she's ready to be bred in terms of her reproductive hormones? How do I know she's cycling? How do I know she's hit puberty? There's a couple of different ways that you can look at that. A veterinarian can come in and do a reproductive tract score. That's where they will palpate the reproductive tract. They'll check the ovaries, see if follicles are developing, see if she's ovulated yet, if there's a corpus luteum present or not, and tell you that way. They'll do that on a score of 1 to 5, telling you if they're even close to puberty, if they're pubertal, or not close at all. The other thing that you can do is you can utilize estrus detection aids. And so we talk about those a lot in terms of artificial insemination, but we can use those for natural service as well. You can do things like paint on the tail head or a patch on the tail head. If you happen to have a vasectomized bull or a Gomer bull, you can use a 10-ball marker and tell as well. But those females will ride each other. So if you don't have a bull, you want to use a heat patch on the tail head or just putting paint over the tail head and see if it gets scratched off. You can tell if they've been cycling or not. Tying into that, ideally, we breed our heifers 30 days before we breed our mature cows. What that does is after she calves for that first time, it gives her an extra 30 days of recovery before we turn her out for the subsequent breeding season. Because in that next breeding season, she'll go in and she'll be bred with the rest of the herd. So if you can breed the heifers 30 days before the mature the mature herd, or at least a couple weeks before. Just give her a little bit of extra recovery time prior to that second breeding. If you have any questions on developing or selecting your replacement females, please reach out to us. Again, we didn't have a lot of time in this particular video to get into some of the nuances of nutrition and some of the other general management considerations, but we're happy to visit with you. Please reach out to your local extension agent. Please reach out to me, and we'll be happy to visit. Thank you.